What an effort. Look at this. Behind the back twice. The Murray.
Beautiful delivery from Kidd. Kidd to Martin. The Nets lead.
Jason Kidd with a blind feed. Perfectly done to Van Horn.
In case you watched the just concluded NBA playoffs final and were wondering why the Mavericks coach looked very familiar, well, it's because you're staring at a man who totally ripped it off in the NBA back in his playing days. Yes, this man right here is the superstar Jason Kidd that you've heard so much about, and he's probably one of the greatest and slightly controversial legends the game has produced in the 21st century. Jason was that man who did whatever it took on the court to win, even if it meant going against his coach. Heck, most times it meant defying his coach, but for Jason, well, it is what it is. He was the ideal one-man showstopper, even before the likes of LeBron and co., and whenever he got in his element, there wasn't anyone you'd back to get in his way. So how good was Jason Kidd? Well, maybe the right question should be, how did a stubborn player who never listened to anybody but himself manage to hold the NBA to a chokehold for nearly 2 decades? Ladies and gentlemen, this is the legend of Jason Kidd, and it's one you definitely don't want to miss. So grab a seat, get comfortable, and don't forget to smash that subscribe icon. Ready? Then let's get right in. Kidd, or Mr. Triple-Double, as we all came to know him, did not just magically develop his show-stopping skills overnight in the NBA. No, he already had most of these characteristics embedded in him from when he was younger. For instance, he was already carrying his whole team right from college, and even in high school, he had always been that guy who loved to make things happen. Born on the 23rd of March, 1973 in San Francisco, California, Jason Frederick Kidd grew up in Oakland, where he pretty much learned to live and love the beautiful game from a tender age. He also had a driving passion to play, and it was obvious in the way he competed every single time. But it wasn't just his competitive spirit that made him exceptional, because he also had an uncomfortable air of maturity around him that was obvious whenever he touched the basketball. Tell you what, this kid was so good that he already had top colleges twerking for him even before he got to his senior year of high school. And why won't they? When he was literally sweeping away awards for fun. And, well, the story wasn't much different in college either. It didn't matter that Jason had opted to stick with the University of California over other colleges with top teams. He still managed to grab the headlines every other match day. He was the kid who just wouldn't be stopped. He was distinctive in the way he played. He was a menace on the ball, but an even bigger one off it because of his intelligent reading of the game. In just his first year, the boy wonder managed to shatter the NCAA record for steals by a freshman with a jaw-dropping 110 steals. He also managed equally impressive tallies for points and assists that saw him crowned the Freshman of the Year. For the Golden Bears, it was resurgence time, and they were lucky to have the young phenom leading the charge. In his 2 years in California, he managed to lead the team to back-to-back NCAA tournament appearances before eventually declaring for the draft in 1994. It was clear and obvious that this kid was primed and ready for the NBA. And you bet it didn't come as much of a shock when he was selected as just the 2nd overall pick in the drafts. Kidd had been selected by the Dallas Mavericks, who were fresh off not just their worst season, but also finished with the worst record in the NBA. If there was ever a worse time to be joining a franchise, it was now, and it already spelled trouble for the 21-year-old who was under immediate pressure to perform. But then, one thing we came to learn in the 94-95 season was that players like Kidd had ice in their veins, and, well, it really doesn't matter how much pressure or how much spotlight you put on them, he just cannot be shaken. In just his first season in the NBA, the youngster completely ripped the league apart, recording an incredible average of 11.7 points, 5.4 rebounds, and 7.7 assists. It didn't matter that he was playing in what was arguably the worst team in the league at the time, and it most certainly didn't matter that he was just a young man in his rookie season. He had gone against all odds to turn the franchise's fortune around in what was tagged the largest improvement in the NBA, and even though they eventually missed out on a playoff spot, Kidd would go on to be crowned Joint Rookie of the Year alongside Detroit Pistons' Grant Hill. If the world needed any proof that he was him, he had just challenged the limits of their imaginations. But even then, the Wonder Kid was only just getting warmed up. However, things didn't really go as planned in his second season. Of course, the youngster managed to be voted as a starter in what would be his first of many NBA All-Star games. But try as they might, the Mavericks just couldn't hit second gear. At that point, relationships between the youngster and his coaches began to go downhill. Perhaps he felt the club wasn't doing enough to reach its full potential, or maybe he was just downright fed up with the poor leadership. He clearly needed a stable environment where he could spread his wings and fly. So, when the Phoenix Suns came calling the next season, he just couldn't say no. In Arizona, Kidd was quick off the mark once again. In fact, this was where he really hit his strides, improving the Phoenix Suns' win total by 16 in just his first full season. But then, it was in the following season that he really showed the NBA what he was made of, recording a whooping 10.8 assists per game on his way to becoming the league's assist leader. Kidd's 7 triple-doubles were also league-leading that season, and to put that in perspective, the entire league only managed 4 more triple-doubles than the fast-rising superstar. Now, how's that for a stat? Well, just when it seemed like the superstar had reached his peak, he would go on to finish as the best assister in the league for the following 2 seasons. Despite missing a bunch of games due to injury and a couple of off-field issues, he would also earn back-to-back-to-back All-NBA First Team and All-Defensive Team selections between 1999 and 2001 before deciding that he'd gotten enough of Arizona's warm climate. But by then, he had already made a name for himself as the man that makes things happen. You could ask anyone who watched Jason Kidd play, and the answer would be pretty much the same. They'll tell you that Kidd was one of the smartest players to ever grace a basketball court. As a point guard, he almost revolutionized the role with his impeccable contributions at both ends of the court. Defensively, he could guard anybody without breaking a sweat, and we can't even begin to talk about his fast-paced transitions. It's almost superhero-like, the way he glides across the court in split seconds and covers a lot of ground. But then, there's absolutely no denying that his best contributions came in the attacking end, where he just so effortlessly dominates. You see, Jason Kidd was that guy who didn't even need to try to be impressive. He just quite simply was. His IQ was on a different level from everyone else's, but to be fair to everyone else, this is Jason Kidd. And in all honesty, his basketball intelligence has always been light years ahead of others. There was always something about him. You didn't need to look 2 times to see that he had that X factor that automatically makes any team he plays for quality. He was a point guard by trade, but he was the strangest type you'd see. He didn't need to score, but he always made all the difference in the way he brought his teammates into the game in extraordinary fashion. Tell you what, on his good day, this man could pick out a killer pass with his eyes closed and both hands tied behind his back. That's just how good he was. Kidd was also a leader, perhaps a little bit too much of it, that he usually vetoes the coach's instructions and makes his own fortune on the court. And guess what? Well, at the end of the day, he almost always ends up right. Now, while this unusual demeanor of his may have caused more than a few spats with more than a few of his coaches, not one of them would think twice before picking him again. During his 19 seasons in the NBA, this Hall of Famer managed only 1 NBA championship. However, that does not tell even half the story of the legend Kidd was. For one, anybody who saw the 10-time NBA All-Star play would agree that he was truly a maestro on the court. And he completely lit up the NBA with his insane creativity, among other qualities. His over 12,000 career assists rank him second on the all-time leaderboard, while his 107 triple-doubles also put him up there among the very best in the business. Nowadays, Jason has transitioned into coaching, and what a fantastic job he's doing of it too. Matter of fact, he's just fresh out of leading his beloved Mavericks to the NBA playoff finals in what was an incredible playoff run. No denying the fact that he's an excellent coach, but he'll forever be remembered for his legacy as a player and one of the best point guards in the history of the game. So, where would you rank this superstar on your list of all-time point guards if you were to choose? Do let us know in the comments section below. And don't forget to subscribe to this channel for more exciting videos about your favorite NBA stars.